Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. That noise on the roof is called rain. It's now, what is it? It's about 3:45 in the afternoon, and it's been doing this since 11:30 this morning. And I'm in the middle of the south coast of the UK. My next lot of plants coming from Carroll are coming from the deepest West Wales that gets this lot first. And basically all I can say is weather's stopped play. The new plants, a couple of which are destined to go there in my border, which is now watered to the extreme, shall we say. I need to do some work on that because, again, that wisteria has already got up into the tree, so that's got to come off again. And these variegated bushes, I need to do something with them because, firstly, I don't like them, but they're not mine. They don't belong to me. I can't get rid of them, but what I can do is cut them. And the idea is to trim them from the ground upwards so that they look a bit more like a lollipop, but it will allow more planting at the base of those areas. So that's a theory. That bush there has just suddenly rocketed. It's just suddenly shot up. Now that has blooms in February when there's no leaves on it. So I'm inclined to leave that. It's not untidy, and if it's going to bloom on this year's wood next year, then that could be quite a nice show. So we'll leave that as an experiment. We've had high winds over the last couple of days. One of my bonsai pots has blown off the table twice and lost some of its media, but that can be poked back in. I'm not going out there in this, it can wait. But yes, my plants are on hold. There is no point in expecting somebody to get soaking wet digging plants up that are then going to be soaking wet to go in a box to go to Postman Pat, so that's not going to happen. There is a window of opportunity probably this weekend where there will be a break in the weather. Now the weather next week, there are several options and they haven't made their mind up yet. One option is a high pressure is going to come in, so we'll get some more settled weather with, a bit of sunshine and far less rain, and more importantly the wind will drop. It's been pretty blowy here today. As I said, several things have blown over, pots have blown over, things have blown off of staging, so it's been a bit blustery, shall we say. But my new plants are now on hold until next week, in theory. But next week is still dependent on being able to get out in some reasonable weather to dig them up and, get them in a box to Postman Pat and get them off to me. So it's now dependent on weather, as it always was, but it ain't going to be this week. So that unboxing's not going to be this week. But it could be next week. And the other good thing about next week is, in theory, my kneeling stool should arrive midweek. Now that's coming from the US of A, courtesy of Gail as a birthday present. It will be an early birthday present, but yeah, so be it. So the idea is for these two events to coincide, so that when my plants arrive, they're going to be bare rooted. They'll just be in like polythene bags, wrapped at the top to keep the moisture in, and then carefully layered in a box and taken to Postman Pat. But they can't stay like that long. They need to get in the ground. So if they are sent early next week, it's normally a 1 to 2 day delivery. When they arrive, they'll need to go in the ground. And if that coincides with my kneeling stool arriving, then hopefully I can, because the thing is, when you've got quite a few plants and they've all got to go in the ground virtually straight away, you're looking at quite a lot of work in one go. And that's not how my back and my knees actually like to work. They like to work a little bit at a time. But I'm happy with that. If that box arrives and I've got my kneeling stool, those two combined should mean that I can get this lot in the ground without being an invalid for 2 or 3 days. What was I going to say? That was on the other channel, wasn't it? Yes. I did an unboxing on the Orchid channel, and at the end of that unboxing I had a gift from another orchid grower, and at the end of that video I explained that I have, you can't call it an injury, and yet you can. Where are we? Let's come over here. That bonsai staging there, that slatted bonsai staging, when that arrived it was in a flat pack. So it was in a box. And it was handed to me at the gate, and I didn't realise quite how heavy it was, and I dropped it on my toe. And as a consequence we had the multicoloured toenail, and I didn't think much of it. But over time the nail became heavily thickened and started to grow away from my toe, basically, and it was I classed it as an ingrowing toenail. And over the last week or so it's got flipping painful because it sticks up. So if I try and put any shoes on, it's touching the top of the shoe, which is pushing the nail down into my toe, which is painful. The other alternative, when I'm round the house, I'm barefoot. Lovely, sounds good, doesn't it? No. When you haven't got any support under your foot, when you walk, your foot arches and all of your weight goes on your toes. So either way, it hurts like hell. I've managed to overcome it to a degree. I had a lovely long soak in a hot bath yesterday, and that made the nail really soft, because it's like 3 times as thick as it should be, and I can't cut it, so it just keeps growing. You might find this funny, you might not. If you ever look at some bonsai tools, they look like implements of torture, and in this case I used one of my bonsai tools to cut my toenail, and it worked. And the reason why it worked was they are razor sharp, 1, and 2, you've got really long handles to give you incredible leverage, which means they cut quickly and easily. So I've managed to cut the toenail back so that it now doesn't press on the top of shoes or my sandals that I wear a lot of the time, and by not going barefoot and walking around too much, I'm sort of getting away with it. Now, I may have solved the problem, I may still have to go and see a doctor, but at the moment the pain's gone away and I'm walking comfortably. So we'll wait and see, but if it gets bad enough that I can't walk properly, then we'll have to deal with it, won't we? Anyway, so new plants from Carol from deepest West Wales will not be coming this week. Hopefully they will come next week, and they will coincide with arriving around the same time as my kneeling stool, and we will have another planting session, many of which are destined for the gravel beds. We have a redesign about to happen in the gravel beds, because that staging there I don't want there for the winter. That was put there to keep some of my bonsai out of the hot midday sun. Well, we haven't got that hot midday sun anymore, so that staging is going over on the farthest gravel bed towards the back, and the staging that's in front of there will come forward a little bit. So all 3 lots of bonsai staging will be in that area there, and there's a good reason for that, because we're coming to the time of year when the birds will start using the feeders a lot more than they have been. That's if my bird table doesn't totally disintegrate, because the bottom, the actual table part of it, is plywood, and as you can see the bottom section of the plywood is already detached where it's starting to rot. hopefully it'll hang together for this winter. It would be relatively easy to repair because all I'd need is a new piece of plywood and take everything else off of that piece of plywood and reattach it. So it came as a kit. Anyway, that's by the way. But I want that somewhere where I can see the birds. And at the moment I can't see them because I have lots of plants in the way. And I want to get that back over where it used to be, which is in that corner there. That way I can see it from my computer table. Oh, hello. Nuisance wants to come out and he'll go to the door, realise it's chucking it down with rain and turn around and go back in again. It's not stupid. Cats might seem a bit dim sometimes, but he's not going to go out there and get soaking wet, that's for sure. So I want the bird table back over in that corner, and that kills two birds with one stone, because firstly I'll be able to see the birds when I'm sitting at my computer, which I do for a fair bit of the day, running 3 channels and a Facebook group and various other things. There's a fair bit to do sat in that chair. And 2, it's a little exposed where it is, and by bringing it back into the corner, the birds have got cover. You know, they've got that hedge up there and they've got all these bushes, so they'll feel more secure. I mean, you have to bear in mind we did get a sparrowhawk here last year which caused a bit of a kerfuffle but it came back the next day and I haven't seen it since, so I'm not classing that as a big deal. But birds feel more comfortable if they can just dart in and out of bushes and hedges and things onto the bird table, whereas over here it's actually quite exposed there. There's no cover for them at all, so we'll get that back where it used to be. You know, we're heading well into September now. Once we get into October, you know, the leaves will start to turn, and a lot of the work around the farms will have been finished, so you know, the grain and seeds and things that have fallen will start to get thin on the ground, and the birds out in the countryside will start thinking about coming in, and they'll be looking for food. So the idea is to help them out, and let's hope we can get a good variety of birds this winter. First winter I was here, I had a good variety of birds on the bird table. This winter just gone, not so much. There were quite a few missing that just didn't turn up. So hopefully this year we'll get a better variety, and I'm hoping to just stick the camera on the tripod pointing at the bird table and film some of our visitors that we get. And I can edit out the bits where there's nothing there and just leave the bits where we've actually got some birds to look at. I'm quite looking forward to doing that. Anyway, changes of plans. Things are going to be different to the original plan, but nonetheless, I've got some staging to move, which is heavy, but I can manage that. I better manage that quickly before my toe gets bad again. So we're slightly rearranging what's going on out here for the winter period, and we've got some new plants to come sometime down the line. I'm not in a hurry for these new plants. When they arrive, I'll deal with them. And in addition, we've still got those to do. Yeah? That cardboard box isn't going to be up to much now, is it? Oh, I never thought of that, twit. Anyway, there's plants there. Those are all destined for the gravel beds. So we've got those to do, and I don't want to plant them until the others arrive, because I want to put the plants where I think they ought to go and make a plan. Something that other people that do, you know, when you're laying out a flower bed and you've got all the pots with all the plants in, and you start placing them, and you sort of think, no, that one doesn't go right there, it doesn't look right next to that one, and you move things around until you're happy with where they're going to go. And that's what I'm hoping to do for the new plants coming from Carol and the ones I've already got in the pots. There won't be any more plants to plant this year. That will be the lots, because it's getting a bit too late in the year to start doing that sort of thing. I may buy some bulbs, because in this garden there is only one clump of daffodils, and they're down there in the middle of that ivy bed. And daffodils, there are some early varieties, would give that lovely splash of gold into the garden. So I may buy some bulbs, because autumn is a good time to plant bulbs to flower in the spring. Undecided, but probably. We'll see how it goes. And I'm probably raising my voice now because the rain is getting heavier again. I need to go and have a sit down. It's nearly tea time. It's late in the afternoon. On days like this, you sort of think, cool, the nights are drawing in, aren't they? And then all the clouds clear and the sun comes out and you think, oh, perhaps not. Anyway, I will see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. This is just a chatty video to say, you know, the things that are changing, plans that are changing. I don't like saying things that are going to happen and then they just don't without an explanation. So, as I say, plans are changing due to this weather. No other reason, just this weather. The one thing us gardeners cannot control is the weather. All we can do is make plans and adjust them when the weather messes us about, which it does. And it's been doing quite a bit of it this year. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.